Live from the Bronx, Season 2. We are still the podcast that celebrates Bronx creators and change makers, and I'm your boy, KB.
What is going on, beautiful people? It is your boy, Jay. Before we jump into this episode, y'all already know we're streaming on all platforms. Hit that subscribe button, check us out, and tell a friend to tell a friend to check us out. So, today we got a super duper dope episode for y'all. Our guest is from the Bronx. He's killing the game. You may have heard this brother producing on a bunch of different songs. You may not even know it's him, right? This brother is the CEO of Platinum Boy Music, Inc., multi-platinum bad boy hitman record producer, and Trey Songz musical director and tour drummer. He is a resident at Dre's nightclub. He's an educator and a motivational speaker. This brother has produced songs for over 100 artists, including Jennifer Lopez, French Montana, Trey Songz, Chris Brown, 50 Cent, Justin Bieber. The list is crazy. This brother's catalog is bananas. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming King Amadeus. What's poppin', brother?
Man, first off, my brothers, I'm honored and grateful to be here, man. You know, we repping. We repping. So I had to pull up on my brothers, you know what I'm saying? But thank you for having me, man. What a great intro. I love the energy. We just getting started, and I already love the energy, man. So thank you again for having me, man. And let's get it going, man. Let's get the people what they want.
No doubt. So, like Jay said, your bio kind of speaks for itself. I'm a huge fan, and we're going to kind of dive into some of the records that have meant stuff to me specifically. But for folks listening, right, if they're not familiar with who you are, because some of them might be familiar with the music but not necessarily know who you are, but who is Amadeus? How do you identify?
Right. Well, first off, I'm from the Bronx. I'm from 169 Washington Avenue, the projects over there, the 9. So that's how I am. And of course, we're talking about the music director, the drummer, the musician, the producer, right? But before we even get into that, it's just about me as the man. Amadeus, it's a very powerful name. Of course, the name has come from the legendary classical composer Wolfgang Mozart Amadeus, who was a legend and a genius. So when I grabbed the name, I wanted to be that of hip hop and pop and R&B. You know what I mean? That was the goal that I set out with for. So in regards to Amadeus, the musician, that side, that's who I am. But, prior to that, I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a king. I'm a son, and I'm a brother, I'm a father, so that's most important to me. I think the music and everything that comes along with the name and my career is amazing. The accolades, the success, the wall art that's in the back is great. But, I love how you start off that interview with that question, because there's so much more to Amadeus than the music. And then when you bring it all in together, it makes sense. And the people will understand what I'm saying probably at the end of this interview, as we have this conversation and you guys ask the questions that you ask to really find out, who Amadeus is. So just off the rip, from what the people know, the musician, the multi-platinum producer, the bad boy hitman, the CEO of Platinum Boy Music, Inc., the educator, the motivational speaker, Trey Songz, music director, tour drummer.
Talk.
You know what I'm saying? Like Dre's nightclub, resident drummer, you know what I mean? Like you said, 100 artists: J-Lo, French Montana, Lil Wayne, Tyga, Jeezy, Fabulous, T.I., Keisha Cole, Danity Kane, Day 26, Justin Bieber, CeeLo Green, Maya. You know what I'm saying? Like ESPN First Take, BET, VH1, MTV. You know what I mean? Sprite. So yeah, musically, that's who I am, man. But it's so much more, and I'm definitely glad that you started off the question that way.
Yo, brother. Shout out to you for all your success, man. To your point, it's not every day we get a chance to sit down and hear the stories of folks from the Bronx who are doing amazing work, who are in the music industry, but not just pursue a career in the music industry. You're back, right? Like, you're still here, you're still in the Bronx, right? You having conversations with folks like us and keeping it funky, right? I think above all, the thing that I said right before we started this interview is that at the heart of it all is you are a human. You're a person who's really loving and caring and super genuine, right? Like,
thank you, man.
When we were just talking about how you and me first started talking, shout out to Principal Torres.
Man, what up, Torres?
Yeah, he's also part of season 1. Like, of our first, I think our first guest.
Yep.
Right?
Wow, that's
And
the big bro right
and
there,
he
man.
connected facts. He's the OG, and he connected Amadeus and I. And it's funny because it was mad random. I was at my family crib. It was like a FaceTime that just kind of took place, and both Amadeus and I think we both answered the phone just off strength of like Torres. You feel me?
Right, right.
Just off
Yeah.
strength of Torres, and then we just started vibing. The energy was amazing, and then we just kicked it from there, right? So.
Yes, sir.
So I just, again, appreciate you for spending this time with us, and
No doubt,
definitely
man.
a
I'm
big
honored,
supporter of your work and who you are.
Thank
So
you.
with that said, you mentioned your block. You shout out your block in the Bronx, right?
Yes, sir.
And one of the things that we like to do is get a little deep and learn a little bit more of the childhood and the experiences of our guests, right? And before you even jump into your response, I remember just kind of reading through some of your bio and learning more about you. And you had this really dope, powerful description in describing the neighborhood that you grew up in. And you said, the attractive intersection of East 169th Street and Washington Avenue lured countless young men into unfit, committed relationships with its corner. Brother, what does that mean? Talk to us about your upbringing and why that statement.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad you asked, man. My block, they call my block the 9. And of course, us being from the hood, us being from the streets, you brag about that. You know what I mean? Because the 9 obviously is we're talking about guns, you know what I'm saying? Gun talk. And not so much me, because I lived there, but I lived a different life based off of my upbringing. My parents didn't play no games, you know what I mean? And I wanted to be on the corners, not so much, doing what was being done on the corner, but, you consider those guys, at least I did as a youngin', because we don't know. You consider those guys the cool guys. They're on the corner, they outside late, they can stay out as long as they want. They wearing all of the fly gear. They got all the new J's when they come out. They got the Pele, they got the Averexes. You know what I'm saying? I'm dating myself, but you know what I mean? Like
everything you just said, I'm with it. I know. Jay's a little younger, but I'm with it.
You know what I'm saying? The A Solos, the Gore-Tex, the Vasquez boots, like all the stuff I can't afford. They got it. And it's like, all right, so y'all out here every day. Y'all out here on the corner, but y'all fly as hell. You got the whips out there. And it's like, you don't understand. I'm talking about, I'm 10, I'm 11, I'm 12. I don't know what's going on because I'm being protected from it. You know what I mean? I'm not in the street. I'm not out there because I go to school, I go to church, I go to the corner store. When I go to the corner store, my mom is at the window timing me to get back because she knows how long it takes for me to get from point A to point B and back. But that's how bad the neighborhood was where she felt she needed to do that. You know what I mean? So, like I said, when it comes to like the attractiveness of the corner and it looking sexy, it looked sexy on the outer surface from a materialistic way. And that's what kind of got my attention. But, I'm grateful to have parents that cared, that knew what it was, and that did their best to keep me away from that corner and that intersection that looked from the outside, looked sexy, but really wasn't. You know what I mean?
Nah, so thank you for that. So one of the things that you mentioned, kind of the way you grew up, right? So you said moms didn't really play. You said you grew up in the church. So one of the things that I kind of, just through following you, I see that you definitely have a really deep rooted like spiritual foundation. So
sure. If
you could talk to us a little bit about that. And also one of the things that I find, because although I didn't grow up in the church, I came to church later on in my life. Okay. One of the things that I've seen is that there's sometimes like this like almost like if you're growing up doing like church and that type of thing, doing hip hop and secular music sometimes is kind of frowned upon. So can you talk a little bit about like maybe what that was like for you and if that was a thing that you ever had to kind of go through?
Yeah, man. Great conversation. Great questions, man. Well thought out. I appreciate, when you make me think, you know what I mean? And not ask the same thing. So I appreciate you, Kings. I grew up learning that God was the foundation. My parents sacrificed and sent me to Catholic school. So I was learning about God from first grade. You know what I mean? Now, my family was Baptist, and then, my school was Catholic. So a lot of similarities, but there were some differences, but not enough differences to kind of make me question anything. You know what I mean? They both had the same principles, and the same morals and teachings in a way. So that was always instilled for me, right? And when I got older, like, around teenager and stuff like that, I really started tapping in a little bit more. We went from being Baptist to Pentecostal, at least me and my mother. And that was different. And just from the energy alone, just from the type of services that were being had, really noisy, really a lot going on live. Like you feel like you was at a club, or you was church, but you feel like you was in a club, the way everybody's dressed, the music, the band, and that's what got my attention. So that lured me in first, the music, the excitement. I'm not going to front, I'll definitely keep it a buck with my brothers, the ladies that was at the church. I mean, I'm just, I told my mom, I told my pastor, like, listen, I'm here because of the girls. I was straight up with it. And
nah, that's how I found church. My wife, bro. Like that's how I found church. Like keep it 100 with you. That's literally it.
That's real talk. So but what you fail to realize is, even though we're there with ulterior motives, we're still hearing God's word being preached. You know what I'm saying? We're still hearing the choir sing. We're still hearing the message. Now, you can decide to try to ignore it, or to act like you don't hear it, or to be focused on the girls or the music so much that you don't hear it. But at the end of the day, you hear it. So with me just being there and hearing it over and over again, I started to tap in because I liked what I heard. It sounded good. It just made so much sense. Like even to the point of me and my gifts and my talents and what I'm capable of doing. Like how I started playing drums makes no sense in the natural realm. Like that story is straight up spiritual. You know what I mean? Because it has everything to do with God giving me a gift, me touching drumsticks for the first time ever in life, never touching drums, never touching drumsticks, and being able to play every beat pattern the teacher played right after him, but never wanting to touch the instrument ever in life. That's only God. Like that's only God saying, I chose you to do that. You know what I mean? What you do with it is on you, but I chose you to do that, right? So God is definitely everything to me, man. I'm far from perfect, of course, just like anybody else and everybody else in the world. But I've been taught morals. I've been taught values. I have a true and clear understanding of who I am, how I got here, and who made me and who gave me what I have. So plays a very important part. And just to answer the other question in regards to being a church musician, church boy, playing gospel music, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but, coming to my pastor and saying, hey, I want to go perform with Trey Songz. You know what I'm saying? That was pretty real. And prior to even me wanting to perform with Trey Songz, I was producing hip hop. And it was tough. It was tough for my household. It was tough for me being in the church because, like you said, Kev, it's like, yo, you can't be doing that. Like you play for God, like, and you play for God only. And if you play anything else, God is going to strike you down. And yo, I believe that 100%, man. And the older I got, I was like, God bugging. Like, what do you mean he's going to strike me down? So how do we explain the person that drives the bus, right? That they're driving the bus, they're driving and operating a vehicle. Nothing in that is them giving God thanks and praise, right? The banker that's counting the money or getting the deposit slips and depositing people's paycheck. They're singing a church song while they do it, or like that is glorifying God? No. So I'm naming these jobs, and this is a real conversation I had. Like, so if y'all can explain to me how that job and this job and that job is being a blessing or praising God, and it's kind of gospel or not secular, then how is me doing what I'm doing a problem? I'm working. Like me making beats is a job, is a career. It's something that I've decided to do. Now, I'm not the lyricist. I'm not the artist. I have no control over what's being said on the beats that I made. But when I made the beat, it was innocent. It was pure. You know what I'm saying? It was just the music. Now you come along and say, I shot the chick, I killed her, I had this BIT. Like, I have no control over that. You know what I'm saying? So I love that you guys asked that question because it's definitely a battle that I had to fight. And it was really more so about making a decision. Like I'm an adult, I'm grown, and these are the dreams that God gave me. You may not agree, you may not believe, you may not want me to do that, but guess who's going to do that? Me. You know what I mean? And I went after what I dreamt of, and it's amazing how things turn around because, I made my bishop and pastor proud. I made my family my proud, and even the ones that didn't get it and hated it, and was like, you ain't gonna be able to do. They had to even say, yo, damn, bro, like you really doing that. Like you really did that. I didn't think you could make that happen, but you did. So, absolutely.
Nah, thank you for sharing that. I love the way you were kind of able to explain. This is a job, right? You can still glorify God, but this is your work. You're making beats.
Right.
I love that explanation.
Right.
I think that's dope. So with that, let's talk about hip hop, right? So I guess for like hip hop is literally taking you all around the world. So for me, I guess I would want to know what and who were some of like your hip hop influences. What role did hip hop play in your life from young?
Right.
Share a little bit of that with the audience if you don't mind.
Listen, man. So I'm gonna give my age, but you know, I remember buying cassette tapes, man, of like Naughty by Nature and like Gangstar and like Brand Nubian and like Wu-Tang and like Who's the Man soundtrack, which is a movie, you know, with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like what else? Black Sheep, bro. Like this KRS-One, like that's what I was listening to. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to grow and evolve as the music evolved and start, listening to, then we got Big and Biggie and rest in peace, and Jay-Z and Nas and AZ, you know what I'm saying? And so many, the youngsters. Like I'm really dating myself, but I want people to really hear like what I was listening to, like Another Bad Creation, like Criss Cross, like The Brat, you know what I'm saying? Damn, like, yeah, like, but that's what made me like feel away. Dr. Dre, even back then, Snoop, when Dr. Dre did the deep cover record off the soundtrack with Dr. Dre and Snoop, like, and it wasn't necessarily so much of the lyrical content. Like I listened to lyrics, but for me, it was always the beat that drove me. It was always the beat that got me excited. And then I kind of got on board with what was happening lyrically. So those are some of the people that influenced me as a baby. And then as I grew and got older, then you know, it's Puff and the Bad Boy Hitman and, you know, Faith and 112 and Big and, you know what I mean? And Mace and, you know, all of those different acts and artists that came about that was influential. So a lot of those, you know, all of those artists that I name, and I'm sure I can name a million more, but those are who, you know, stand out to me. Like LL, how can I forget like LL and like, you know, Rakim and Big Daddy Kane and Dougie Fresh. Like I could go on forever. Busta Rhymes and like, you know, Tribe Called Quest. Like you get me hype. I'm getting hype right now.
Yo, you don't even know. Kevin is screaming right now in his head.
Yo, bro.
So, yo, and I'll let Kev share that, but I know part of the reason that we were so excited about you is because you've made music for some of our favorite artists, right? And thinking back, kind of before we even get into like all the dope stuff, let's stay kind of in that young Amadeus life right now, right? So take us back to when you got your first major hit, right? Like 03. I know you've been in the game for a minute, even before that, right? We always hear about the first hit, but dude's been making music years before that. So talk us through that experience. What was that like for you?
Yo, it was crazy, man. And I was making beats upon beats. Like I was making beats in high school, you know what I mean? So that first moment was epic. It was with Foxy Brown. I know a lot of the youngins, if you don't know Foxy Brown, Google her. I'm talking about, you know, I know a lot of youngins paying attention to Nicki Minaj, and who was incredible, a young legend in her own right. Nicki Minaj and, you know, Meg Thee Stallion and, you know, all of these Sweetie and all of these dope artists that are doing their thing now. But Foxy Brown, like for me, is a GOAT. Like is you know, I had her poster and was sitting there drooling with her poster, like, yo, it's Foxy Brown. It's the ill nana. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, that placement was just epic for me, man. That was the first placement for me. It was on the Cradle to the Grave movie and soundtrack. It was an actual title track to that movie and soundtrack. So it was just big all the way around. The song was featured in the movie, played for 26 seconds. As you can see, I still remember exact same time, still to this date, because that check, and to put my head down and get a moment of silence, that check was crazy. And for a young kid to get that type of check, it just was epic, man. And I didn't grow up poor, you know. My family, my mother and father just had priorities, you know, priorities that as a kid I didn't understand. But I'm like, I want the J's, I want the Tims, I want the Jordans, and they're like, nah, we're gonna pay your tuition and you're gonna go to this Catholic school and you're gonna dress up and that's what we're gonna do. So that's where the money went. You know what I mean? But But yeah, man, like that first placement, I went crazy. I bought all Air Force Ones. I bought mad suits for church. I bought gaiters for church. Like I just went crazy. But just thinking about back at that time, it was just kind of, how do I explain it? Like a breath of fresh air. It was like, yo, all these years, all your life, you've worked towards this moment. You worked towards perfecting your craft. You've been making beats, not going out, not hanging with your friends, and losing relationships based off of you chasing this dream, and hours on the drums every Sunday in church, Fridays, Saturdays, Wednesdays in church on drums, choir rehearsal, like getting on a bus, to me, risking my life to go to church and play drums and come back. Because I would come back at home at like 11, 12 in the morning by myself on a bus to 41, like in a church suit, like, yo, like a target, bro. And God always kept me covered, man, because I was doing the right thing and I was going to and from his house. So he was like, I got to protect this young king, So that moment was just surreal for me, man. And, it's just a blessing that's how I started. And, it's kind of like pressure and excitement, because to me, I'm like, yo, this is my first song out the gate, and look how big it is. Look how much of a moment it is. So everything that follows this has to be huge, and it's all love and respect, to Foxy. It has nothing to do with Foxy. It was just a challenge for me. Like, yo, you only up from here, bro. You know what I mean? And, I'm just grateful that I lived up to that challenge. And, as you can see the wall art in the back, I'm blessed, man.
So I'm always like interested in the process, right? The process of things. So what is your process when you're making beats, right? Do you have like a certain room that you go to? Is there like, how do you do it?
First off, man, I know I've always heard about like different producers and creatives who hear beats in their head and ideas. I don't hear nothing. Like, there's not no thought. There's no, all right, this is an idea that I have, and I'm hearing this idea, and I'm just putting this idea down now that I hear it. I don't hear nothing. When I turn on that equipment, it's nothing. It's just silence. And it's just like, what you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? And that's how I always sat down and sat down in front of my equipment. And as I start going, it's just about what the question I ask myself, not out loud, but just internally. It's like, what do you feel in this moment? Like, where are you at in this moment right here? What do you feel? Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you feeling yourself? You swagged out? Like, where you at? And once I figure out where I'm at, I start listening to the sounds. I sampled a lot, as well as created a lot of original tracks as well. So if I'm feeling like I want to mess with a sample, I play the record until I hear something or a part that I love. Start chopping and cutting and pasting and copying and getting it moving around until I have it to where I want it to go. And, one thing I do is people find it's really rare is I create the melody first. So I'll say 50 to 60% of the music first, and then build the beat around that. And people are surprised by that, especially with me being a drummer. They're like, you don't do the drums first? And I do the drums last. And my reason is because if I start out with the drums, I lock myself into that pattern. You know what I mean? So if I start out with the music, it allows me to go anywhere with the pattern. So I can start out just with all of the music, and just with the music, I can hear it being the EDM joint. I can hear it being a trap joint. I can hear it being a boom bap. You know what I mean? A pop feel. I can hear the different ways I can take it, just with the music first. So I always create with the music first. And again, I love candles. I'm a real vibey dude. Like, I love candles, man. So I always like candles in the room. I've never been.
You see my joint right here.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my joint. I normally have it here. I do it. I put a candle on everything. I normally, probably because I ran out to move the car. That's probably why the candle is not lit right here. But I normally have a candle lit right here. It's just something about it. The aroma, the vibe. I guess the zen of it. It's just calming, and I love when things smell good. So it just puts me in a place. I normally dim the lights as well. And just kind of see where I'm at internally in regards to where I want to go. So that's pretty much my process. I've never been one, and no shot to anybody, I've never been one to take anything to get going. Like, I've believe it or not, even from the Bronx and from the hood, I've never touched weed or smoked weed a day in my life. And today's the 7th, right? In 23 days, I'm going to be 40 years old. So in 40 years, I've never touched weed. And I know a lot of creators from a positive space smoke weed, and, you know, that allows them to get them into a certain creative space, but I've never touched it. It's kind of like a pact I made with myself to not touch it, and to be able to look at my son in his eyes as he's 15-year-old now and say, yo, you ain't got to do nothing you don't want to do in life, because dad is from the Bronx, I'm from the hood, I'm from the projects, I'm in the music industry where it's surrounding me. And I said no. And no, out of personal reasons to not do it. So, you know, never done that, man. So, you know, that's my creative process, man, and in regards to how I create music.
Thanks so much for sharing that, right? Because it's personal. That journey, that process is one that's real personal, and you can see how the spirituality comes with you in that creative space, right? When you talk about the dim light, the candles, just setting the mood before you even sit down to start thinking about what the melody is going to be for that next beat, right? So thanks so much for sharing a part of who you are with us. And what you were just talking about, right? Like, just being somebody in the music industry, surrounded by drugs, surrounded by millions of dollars, right? Surrounded by so much that's going on, especially as a young age, and then kind of going through that journey. What is that like, right? So just for some context, the reason I'm asking this, aside from what we hear and what we see, I've actually been in a few Clubhouse rooms, right? You know, Clubhouse is a thing, is popping now. In the past few weeks, where there are folks in the hip hop industry who are getting on and hosting rooms about mental health. And I've just kind of just plugged in just to see like what's going on, because I'm a social worker, and I often utilize hip hop, the community aspect and the storytelling aspect, to do therapy work, right? Or do healing work, identity work. And I just kind of wanted to listen in. And a lot of the folks that were in that room were A&Rs, hip hop artists, producers, just talking about the need for support, the need for mental health support that doesn't exist, right? And in some ways, the industry pushing away that type of support, not advocating for it, because it sometimes goes against what the industry execs want to produce and want you to put out. So how'd you navigate such a complex system with so much happening at such a young age, and even today, right? Because that still kind of, you know, tries to come down on you in some ways without some of us even realizing it, right? So what is your story with all of this?
It goes back to what we originally spoke about, and that's, you know, my spirituality and morals and values. My parents kind of instilled a sense of fear in regards to touching any type of substance, you know, and not for me to be afraid of them, but just me not wanting any parts of it, right? Also, growing up in the hood, you see it for yourself, right? You see, you know, the drug users, you know, you see it, the weed smokers, right? There was a dude that was like the guy in my hood, right? He had all the girls, you know, he was kind of the fly guy, and, you know, he didn't really drive any cars, but he just was real fly, and there was girls coming to check him on the block. And I noticed he always smoked. Now, I knew the difference between a cigarette, you know, and weed, right? So when he had you know, his stick was brown. So I realized that was weed. And as years went on, bro, like, his features changed. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not no pro or expert in weed, and you know, I have no idea. It could have been him crossing over to something else. I don't know, right? But in my mind as a kid, I'm seeing the brown joint, which is the weed, and I'm like, damn, yo, his whole face, the features in his face changed. His lips is like dark and black. Like, so I'm looking at all of these things change, and I'm like, I don't want no parts of that. Like, you know, pause, but like my lips is pink, and you know, I think that's a pretty cool feature to have as a black man. No disrespect to anybody else that ain't any color lip. I'm just talking about for me. And I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of created a fear in my own mind, in my own head, that I didn't want any parts of that. You know, you watch the movies. My dad played Scarface, you know, in the crib. I didn't understand it. I was actually scared of it. I didn't like the gun violence. I didn't like all of the yelling and the machine guns. And so I was nervous. I was scared to watch it. But as I got older, I started watching it and started becoming less fearful and more attentive to what was going on and what the message was. And once the message was clear, it was like, cool, leave the drugs alone. So it was never no challenge for me. Even though, they were selling the drugs, to me, I just saw drugs and downhill. And I don't want downhill, I want uphill.
One of the things that Jay and I always kind of talk about, so you've seen a lot of hip hop, right? Just 40 years worth of a lot of hip hop. Right. So one of the things that Jay and I always talk about, because there's a little age gap between Jay and I. Jay likes to act like it's bigger than it is, but it's a few years. So some of the...
just for context, right? I'll be 29 in a few weeks. Kevin is 48.
This guy, it keeps going. I'm 34, jerk.
You look great, man. You look great, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. We all got young vibes, but I guess when you're producing, right, especially for some of these like younger cats versus producing for someone like the older artists, how do you think about all of that, right? Like, when you're actually making beats, are you thinking about like, this is a beat for this particular artist, so it needs to be kind of structured this type of way? And the second part to that question is, how do you feel, because you named a lot of older artists and stuff like that, the LLs and stuff, how do you feel about some of this music? So
when I approach the music, I'm kind of selfish musically in a way, because I create what I love and what I feel first, like hands down. So I don't really go into the room like, okay, let me go make a beat for Chris Brown. Let me go make a beat for Trey Songz. Like, nah, I just go in there and I do what I do and make sure I love it first. And after I do what I do and I make sure I love it and I feel like it's something special, then I decide, yo, who do I hear on this? You know what I mean? But 9 times out of 10, I'm not tailor making it for anyone. I personally don't believe in that, right? Because let's say I make a record for Busta Rhymes and I play it for Busta and he's like, nah, I don't like it. So now I'm stuck with this joint for Busta Rhymes and it's just sitting in my computer because Busta Rhymes don't want it, versus I'm just gonna make a dope record, I'm a dope track, and I'm gonna send it out to everybody, and I'm gonna see, who it gravitates towards first. You know what I mean? And that's always been, my mentality and my creative process. In regards to, and just to kind of, put everything in context as well, I'm 20 years plus in production, right? So I've seen and heard the change, and that's something that happens, period. Like when I think about what my mother and father listened to, Marvin Gaye and, the Bee Gees and, Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson, right? And then and like Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel and the Furious Five, like, right? And then, now I'm here and I have KRS-One, which is still older, but I'm tapped in. So, and Wu-Tang and, you know what I mean? And these different artists, right? And then now I start and Big and Jay and Nas, right? Now I'm making beats, and now I'm making beats for like, Lil Mo and Foxy and who was first, like, and Fab and 50 Cent, you know what I mean? And Dipset, you know what I mean? And so, right? And now that's the first year that I'm in. Now the second year is here. Now we're getting into like Maya, and now we're getting into like Jagged Edge and so, and then The Game, you know what I mean? And then now it's T.I., now it's Jeezy, now it's Keisha Cole, you know what I'm saying? Now it's Chris Brown. So it's like you see the growth, right? And then the levels of, the older artists that I've worked with, and then it starts becoming younger and younger. And now, now today with like Justina Valentine and like Trippie Redd, you know what I mean? And now tapping into the more of the young artists. So I think the key for it all is understanding that music and sound changes, period. And then being able to adapt, being able to go with the times. And how you do that is keep your ear to the streets, keep your ear to the music. Don't develop a love and hate relationship. Just really appreciate it, right? Because I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing if music didn't change for me. I obviously couldn't make I couldn't be making beats for Stevie Wonder and the Bee Gees. Them dudes is in the studio live playing, orchestrating. Quincy Jones was doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm my era is my era. The sound that I create is the sound, right? But I want to be here 10 years from now. So I got to tap into that next sound and that next vibe and what they're doing. And if I can't do it or don't get it or understand it, surround myself with those youngins that do, that I can teach them the old game and I can teach them I can give them the young OG talk, and now they can school me. Like, listen to young OG, you got to use those drums. You know what I'm saying? You got to use this software to get that sound. You got to put a delay or effect on there to get that 808 that the baby got or Lil Baby got in this track. Like, you surround yourself with that youth and people that are tapped into this now sound and let them teach you, and then you put it all together. You know what I mean? So that's, you know, and I kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but that's how I was able to stay relevant and still be relevant today, you know, 20 plus years after, you know what I mean, as a producer.
20 years in the game. Thank you for that. So one of the things that you talked about, you said you make the music that you want to hear, right? So that obviously if you made a beat for somebody, that particular person, you wouldn't want to be stuck with it. It made me think about how many no's you must have gotten before a yes. So can you talk a little bit about about what that's like, right? Rejection and being able to say, you know what, I'm gonna stick with this because I know that I'm dope. When people say no or close the door, I think the listeners can gain a lot from that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. Another brilliant question by my brothers. I say this, and this will answer the question, and I'll elaborate a little bit more, but I feel like deep down inside, a producer is the person that's told no the most. I'll give an example, right? On a day-to-day basis, I'm sending out a ton of beats to various artists, right? I like to include a large amount, a nice variety of different vibes, sounds, styles, tempos, just kind of, allow an artist to have pretty much a bowl of candy to just be able to like, damn, he got this, he got that, he got this. You know, I love to send music that way. So I normally put about 10 or 15 beats per folder per artist, right? So if I send out to 15 artists, you know what I mean, 15 beats, and let's just say a week from now, 2 weeks from now, I don't hear anything for anybody, that's a no for every single beat to every single artist that I send out, which is something that I face and deal with on a day-to-day basis, because every day, 9 times out of 10, I'm sending out folders of music in hopes of getting a placement, right? So you got to think, it's 365 days in a year. Let's just say, like last year was a very slow year due to COVID. You know, I did a record on a T.I. album. I did 3 songs on Justina Valentine's album, and I did 2 songs for Talib Kweli. To me, grateful, but that's a slow year as a producer for me personally, right? Now, prior to that, I think I would say the 2 years prior to that, 9 songs on Heartbreak on Full Moon, like 2 Keisha Cole records, like NBA, 2K, Madden 2K, Young and May, 9 records on, like that's what I'm used to because of the hustle, right? So even having, let's just say, 30 placements in 1 year, that's great, that's brilliant. But think about how many folders I've sent out, like to various artists that they didn't say yes to or they didn't use on their album. I'll tell this story and we can move on. The Game. Years ago, probably about 7-8 years ago, maybe longer, I had sent them a total of 70 beats, not all in one sitting, separately, 15 here, 10 here. And I was like, and he didn't pick anything. And I'm like, bruh, you ain't hear nothing, man? And his exact words was like, nah, blood, I ain't hear that one yet. And mind you, he can't even tell you, no artist ever to me can say, yo, this is the type of beat I'm looking for. This is what I need. This is the sound I want. They don't know what they want. And that's not, and I mean this in a respectful way. They don't know what they want. Because you can say you want this, I'll play you that, and your ears and antennas go up, and you're like, yo, I need that. but didn't you say you wanted that? So they don't know, right? So instead of being insulted or feeling or in my feelings, I was like, listen, man, I'm finishing up this new CD, and I'm dating myself with the CD, the beat CD. And I was like, I'm gonna upload it to my computer and I'm gonna send it through to you. You know what I mean? He's like, all right, cool, all right, blood. And, you know, I sent the joints, and I would say after about an hour, I get a text message from him, and he was like, I found it, blood. And the beat he picked, bro, is a dope beat. Like, it's cool. Not one of my favorites, but the beat he picked, I'm like, that? And he's like, yeah, this shit right here, bro. This is what I needed. This is what I needed right here, blood. This is crazy, blood. Yo, made a song to it. End up putting Freddie Gibbs on it and Bobby Shmurda. And this is before, you know, he got locked up. So, yeah, man. So, yeah, I feel like, you know, and sometimes I'm not going to sit here and act like it's not, man. Sometimes it's very discouraging. You know the blood, sweat, and tears you put into your music. You know you have heat. But what I've learned to understand is it's about a sound. It's about a vibe. It's about a connection. Like, and sometimes just because it's a dope beat doesn't necessarily mean it's what they're looking for at that time. You know what I mean? It's something, sometimes it's a vibe, and they can't connect with it no matter how dope it is. So yeah, a lot of no's, you know, but, you know, grateful for all of the yeses that I've gotten in my career.
That's real too. And I think that, again, and I mentioned this earlier on, right? And when we started the interview, is that people don't really understand the journey, right? They think that, you know, they see this song popped off and they see your name in the credits and that you produced this, and all of a sudden they think like, yo, this person got it going, right? And you probably, you know, most people probably do. Okay, cool. But they don't understand how many no's it took to get to that one yes. Right. And I think this is so important for people to hear, because it's across all industries. Everywhere we go in all industries, they're like rock stars, right? We look up to people. We say, yo, this is the person in the Fortune 500 who's killing the game. I want to be that. This is the person in the music industry who's a dope artist. I want to be that. But don't understand that to get from where you start and who that person is, it's a long journey with a lot of rejection. And the determination that you need to have is bananas, right? To get to that top level. So thanks for sharing that journey, right? And with that, the other thing you've been able to do, aside from just wearing your producer hat, right, is create opportunities, right? You're an entrepreneur now. Right. And you've been an entrepreneur for some time, right? So what was that journey like? How like you're able to now do things wearing different hats, right? You're able to probably now have multiple streams of income, right? You're now able to really think about, like, how am I going to set myself up and become Amadeus, the brand? Right. And so what was that journey like for you, and why entrepreneurship?
I think what people don't realize is that, especially in music, you know, you could be on fire 1 second and then the next second be cold as ice. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be able to navigate through that, you know? So me being a producer, sometimes there's years, you know, and you guys have my discography where it's years where, yo, this full of records and placements and songs. And then you have some years that was a little slower, like for instance, 2020, you know, I don't like to say only, but, you know, for 2020, there were, I think, let me see, 7 records for 2020. You know, in comparison to maybe like 19, you know, where it was like 30 or something crazy, you know what I mean? So you got to be able to tap into your other gifts, your other talents, to do other things, you know, like same thing with touring. You know, with Trey songs, we had a run for like 10 years straight that was super heavy. Like everywhere you looked, you saw Trey. 106 in Park, BET Awards, on tours, Summer Jam. Like, we had the illest run ever. Like, not comparing to any other. I'm just saying, for me personally, it was crazy, right? And then there came a moment where it was like, all right, Trey's gonna take a break. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, so what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? I'm the drummer, I'm the music director, I got paid very well, thank you, Trey. But it's like, all right, we're not performing, we're not doing shows, I'm not getting no check. So you have to be able to tap into the other areas and the other gifts and talents that you have and that you're capable of, you know, to be able to do other things so that when something slows down, you still have this. you still have that. So that's why I'm also grateful for the educating part, that I've been doing with the Music 101 college tour, and diving more into that. And I'm grateful for your help, King, with you helping me with that, Jay, and helping me and steer me in the right direction of being becoming more involved with DOE, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. And you just don't know. You don't know that you can really come in and educate and empower and teach and properly be compensated for that. You know what I mean? You don't know that because it's a different world. So I'm grateful to tap into those different areas, and not just, have all my eggs in one basket.
So another thing that you talked about, so a journey that I have not gone on yet, but my wife and I have been talking about it more lately, is having children. So you are a father.
Yes, sir.
So I guess for me, when I think about like having kids and stuff like that, like I want my kids to look up to me, think I'm cool and stuff like that. Do your kids like understand like how dope you are, and like are they ever like, oh, I want to meet so and so, or are you just like, it's just dad? So what's that like? So
I give it to you for two lenses, right? First of all, being a father is amazing. Like, if I had to choose, bro, between being a dad and all of this, like, I'm choosing being a dad. And people be like, you bugging. It's not, and I'll explain why. Like, the feeling of being a father is epic, bro. Like the unconditional love that your children give you is something that marriage is great, but it's just something about your kids' love. It's unconditional. They can care less about any accolade, a plaque. I mean, they think it's nice. They think it's cool. They see me happy, and then, they'd be, I'm happy, so they happy. You know what I mean? But they don't care about, none of that, man. As long as you're there for them and you're loving them and raising them, and, they love you through all your flaws. They love you through when you ain't got no money in the bank. They love you through, just in your darkest moments. You know what I'm saying? So it's amazing, man. It's amazing. And, they do understand who I am. They understand who I am. They love it. Honestly, they kind of love all that comes with it. The extracurricular activities, going to concerts, knowing Trey songs, and knowing Chris Brown and Fabulous, and all of these, amazing individuals, and taking pictures, and, them saying what's up to them, and, and just knowing, that's cool, but just knowing also that, I'm, especially in their eyes, that I'm good at what I do, and to see other people appreciate me for what I do, I think it's something that they really enjoy as well, and people wanting to take pictures with me, and people wanting autographs, and following me on Instagram, and the love and the support and the appreciation for what I do in music. They appreciate that as well. You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool, man. Being a dad is pretty cool, because at the end of the day, if I stop doing this tomorrow, and people stop showing love, and stop giving me my flowers and roses, and the accolades stop, and no more plaques are on the way, and, I ball up and become a hermit and never want to come outside again, like, my kids are still going to look at me as the superhero that they feel I am. They're going to love me just as how I am. They, like I said, they can, when I say they care less, it's not from a negative lens. It's more from a lens of your daddy, like your dad. Like, Amadeus is dope. That's cool. But like, to us, like, you're a dad. And that means more important. That's more important than to them, Amadeus. You know what I mean? Which is real.
Amadeus, yo, you are the man, bro. I just want to say, Jay told me that you was mad cool and stuff like that, but getting to kick it with you for this hour, my respect for you has gone through the roof, and I was already a fan. Like,
thank you, man. Thank you so much, man. And I appreciate the love. I appreciate, this amazing conversation. It's always a blessing and humbling that people care about your story and want to know your story and your journey, in hopes of, one, hearing the process and seeing what I had to go to get to where I am today, but then also empowering others and motivating others to go after what it is that they dream about every night. You know what I mean? And I say it all the time, where it's like, the dreams you have when you go to sleep, they're not for you to just have while you sleep. That's God giving you the vision that is within you, and he's allowing you to see that vision, and he's showing you that vision at your calmest state, while you're resting, while nothing else is on your mind, while there's no distractions. He's showing you the visions and the purpose that he has for you in life, right? So when you wake up, you remember it because God gave you that vision. And it's all about what you do with that vision. You have a choice. And life is about choices, man. And you have a choice. Do I only want to see this vision when I'm asleep? Or do I want to see this vision, or do I want this vision to be my reality in real life? Like, do I want to have my eyes open and me look at and out into the world and knowing every day I wake up doing what I love to do. Every day I'm living my dreams, and it's not just something that I'm seeing while I'm asleep. So I think that's something very important that I believe. And I just wanted to share that, with you and the viewers.
No doubt, and I think you definitely hit the mark on that. So for the listeners, what's next for Amadeus?
Listen, man, I'm excited about the year. Again, as I mentioned earlier, last year, man, all jokes aside, like, really try to take me out. Like, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not afraid to say it. I feel like when you're transparent and you tell the people the truth, that's a blessing, because people look at the glitz and the glamour and, like you said earlier, the records and the plaques and, and just assume, that everything is gravy and I'm rich. I'm far from rich, because, the producer's life is not as cracked up as it may seem to be. But it's about what you do with it. It's about, like you said, being an entrepreneur and tapping into other areas that you're great in and moving in that direction. So of course, I love and I'm passionate about music. So I'll continue to do music. I'll continue to perform and tour and drays and trays for as long as I'm, feel I'm capable of doing that. But I'm excited about really, and Jay is a part of it. So it's so dope to really talk about it, because I haven't really talked about it, but I'm really excited about tapping into more of the educational part of music. And not the normal way, not the, hey, I graduated from Yale and I'm, Mr. Amadeus. It's like, nah, it's more from experience. It's more from the 20 plus years that I've been doing what I'm doing. So no disrespect, to any teacher, professor, or anything that would sit down and try to teach kids music, but I really live this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I wake up to and do 24/7, Monday through Monday. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do this, and your knowledge is great. Your wisdom is great. But when I put knowledge and wisdom together with experience, that's something that's untouchable right there. You know what I mean? So I'm very excited about the educational part of it, instilling in these kids that they can do everything that they dream of. That's from where we're from, and I'm really excited to be tapping into the Bronx with it first. Yeah, man, and shout out to, again, as Jay mentioned, Principal Torres, for opening up this amazing door, and shout out to Melissa LeBron, Windows of Hip Hop, for opening up their doors, and Grandmaster Melly Mel and Grandmaster Kaz, the legends, the OGs, for opening up their arms and allowing me this opportunity. I'm getting started with them. So, be on the lookout for the teaching, man, and me coming to the schools, of course, when the pandemic is through and we figure that out, but I'll be remote doing what I'm doing and just making sure that the kids know that there's somebody that cares for them, that loves them, and want to give them the tools and the knowledge and the information that they need to go do, what we're blessed to do each and every single day. So, of course, the music, but more giving, and more being a blessing.
I love that, man. Taking your blessings and giving them back to other people to be blessings for them. Yo, so one thing, this interview was super dope, but before we let you go, one quick game that we like to play with our guests is called Rapid Fire. The way it works, Jay has 5 questions. He is going to ask you them, and what you are going to do is you're going to give us the first word or words that come to your mind when you hear these questions.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yes, sir.
Let's get it. So the first question is, what are 3 words that describe who you are?
Passionate, genuine, God-fearing.
What is your favorite city that you ever visited on tour?
Ooh. Man. I'm going to be honest. It's probably a toss-up. Damn. It's probably a toss-up between Australia, London, and LA.
Fire. What is your all-time favorite album?
Whew. That's a great question. Damn. I'll go Notorious B.I.G. Life After Death.
Fire. What is or who is your all-time favorite producer?
One?
Whatever, 2 or 3.
Okay.
You changing the rules, Jay.
You changing the rules? Nah, I want to stick to the rules. I want to stick to the rules.
We already messed up when you named 3 cities. So
Okay.
it's okay.
That's mad funny. Right. I'll be breaking all the rules, bro. Favorite producer. Damn. Wee. I'm gonna go with Puff, yo. I'm gonna go with Puff, and that's controversial, but I'm gonna go with Puff.
All right, we take that. And then last but not least, what is one word to describe hip hop?
Evolution.
Fire. See, that wasn't too bad. You made it through.
Wasn't too bad. That was fun too.
Yo, see, you made it through.
No doubt. Nah, you killed it with the rapid fire. Jay came through with the questions as always. So for the folks listening, if people want to kind of tap in with you and follow you in your journey and stuff like that, where can they follow you on the social medias?
Yes, sir. I'm on Instagram, Amadeus, Amadeus, PBM, IG, Twitter, Producer Amadeus. I'm more on the IG. I'm pretty more in tuned on the IG. I'm definitely lacking on Twitter. So I would definitely say IG is the best place to reach out to me. I'm great on my DMs. I pretty much almost respond to all of them. I mean, it gets a little out of control, but I do my best to respond to them if you're actually saying something. So let's add that part to it as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, IG is definitely the best place to reach me.
No doubt. Jay, can you throw out our social media for the people listening, please?
Facts. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. All at Live from the Bronx. We are on Twitter at Live from the BX. Check out our website, www.livefromthebronx.com. And shoot us an email. Let us know who you want to see on the show. Let us know what you think. Send a review. info@livefromthebronx.com.
Yo, we did it, y'all.